So in this lesson, there's actually not a quick check or quiz. There's just a practice, and then there was supposed to be a portfolio, but we are not requiring the portfolio for Foundations of Algebra. So let's look at the practice together. If a ping pong ball falls from the top of a building that is 168 feet high, how many seconds will it take the ball to hit the ground? Remember, the formula for distance is d equals 16 times t squared. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug in what we know. We know that it's 168 feet high. That's going to be the distance. What we don't know is the time. We don't know how many seconds, so we're going to try to solve for t. So I'm going to plug in 168 for the distance, and that equals 16 times t squared. Now I am solving an equation, and I am trying to get the t by itself. Right now I have 16 times t squared. I need to get rid of the 16, and the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So I'm going to divide each side by 16, and I'll get t squared equals, I don't know, let me do it in my calculator. 168 divided by 16 is 10.5. Now I'm still trying to get the t by itself. I'm not done yet. I haven't solved for time yet. So I have to get rid of the square. And remember, the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So I'm going to square root both sides because the square and the square root will cancel, leaving me with just t. And then I'm going to find in the calculator the square root of 10.5. And that is approximately, like I'll write down a bunch of the decimal, but then we're going to round it. 3.2403734 ... Okay, so this is an irrational number because it doesn't end or repeat, but we want to round it. So I'm probably going to round it. I'll go to the hundredths place, which is the second decimal. If this is what I want to round to, I look at the number directly behind it. If it's a 5 or above, it'll make this number go up. If it's below 5, this number will stay the same. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say my time is approximately 3.24 seconds. It's going to take about 3 seconds for it to hit the ground. All right, the volume of a box can be found by multiplying the length times width times height. So the volume equals length times width times height. If the volume of the box is 1,300 cubic inches and all the dimensions are equal, what is the side length of the box in inches? Okay, so we know for volume we have to do length times width times height, but it says that they're all the same. So it's really just length times length times length. Those numbers are all three the same. We can rewrite that as length cubed because there's 3 of them. So if we wanted to solve this, we would plug in the volume where it says V. I'll do it down here and then I'll move it up. So 1,300 equals the side length cubed. And a lot of times they won't do letter L. They'll do, for a cube, they'll do x cubed, but we're just going to go ahead and leave it as L. So if I want to solve for the length, I have to get rid of the cube. Remember when you solve equations, your job is to get the letter by itself? Right now it's raised to the 3rd power, or it's cubed. The opposite of cubing is cube rooting. So I'm going to take the cube root of each side. The cube and the cube root will cancel, leaving me with just the length. And then I'm going to show you how to type in a cube root in your calculator. So if you go to Desmos, when you try to go to type in the cube root, you don't automatically see it over here in your common symbols. I want to show you that if you did 3 and then the square root of 1,300, that is going to give you the wrong answer. 3 times the square root is not the same thing as a cube root, so be very careful about that. I'm going to leave that up there because I want you to see the difference. To find the cube root, you actually have to click over here on the functions button, and then they have all these different functions, but you want to be in the miscellaneous category, and down here you will see a root with a little n. That means that you can use this for any root. So we're going to click on this, and we want it to be a cube root, so we need a 3 up there. And then we're going to type 1,300 right here. So if you are if you're confused on the difference, see here how the 3 is big? That means 3 times the square root. It's only a cube root if the 3 is little and it's inside the root symbol, like right there in the little V of the root symbol. So this is actually our answer. It's about 11, or it's 10.9. So be really careful when you type it into Desmos. You have to go to Functions, Miscellaneous, and then get this to do the cube root. Let's go back here. So the length of each side is approximately 10.9 inches, or 11 inches. All right, the area of a circle is found with the formula area equals pi times radius squared, where pi represents 3.14. If a tile artist is laying down tiles in a circular mosaic pattern and the area of the circle is 706.5 square feet, what is the radius of the circle in feet? All right, so let's write down our formula. Area equals pi times radius squared. It tells us the area is 706.5, so I'm going to plug that in for the letter A. 706.5 is my area. It tells us to use 3.14 for pi, so I'm going to plug that in for pi. And then I'm timesing that by the radius squared. Now, if I just use a dot and put radius squared, that might get a little ugly with other decimal there, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in parentheses. I don't know what the radius is yet. That's what I'm trying to solve for, so I just leave it as the letter R. But remember, we are trying to solve for R, so we have to get R by itself. Right now, we have 3.14 times the radius squared, and the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide 3.14 on each side. It'll cancel on this side, leaving us with R squared. And then I'm going to use my calculator for the other side. 706.5 divided by 3.14 gives me 225. Now I'm not done yet because I still have to get R by itself. The whole point of solving an equation is to isolate the variable. So we have to get R by itself. Right now it has a square. The opposite of squaring is square rooting. So I will square root both sides because squares and square roots cancel, leaving me with just R. And then the square root of 225 is 15. So the radius of the circle is 15. And then the last one. Daisy is shipping a package to her daughter Molly. If the box's dimensions are equal and the length is 3 feet long, what is the volume of the box in cubic feet? All right, so we have a box. I'm terrible at drawing cubes, but there we go. We have a cube. We have a box. And it says the box's dimensions are equal. So we know they're all the same. So the length, the width, and the height all have to be the same because the dimensions are equal. And we know that the length is 3 feet long. So we know if the length is 3, we know the width is also 3, and we know the height is also 3. So we want to know the volume. Remember, volume is length times width times height, or in this case, it's just x times x times x, or you could rewrite that, as volume equals x cubed. And since we know that the length, or the x, is 3, we can go ahead and plug in 3 cubed. And then you can either choose to multiply that out by hand. You could do volume equals 3 times 3 times 3 and get your answer, or you can type it in your calculator. Let's look at that. Clear. Okay, so if you wanted to type in 3 raised to the 3rd power, you can't hit the squared button. You have to hit this one. You're going to raise it to the 3rd and then hit enter, and it's 27. So if you want to raise it to a number that's not a 2, you got to use this button. And then let's go back and write that down. So the volume equals 27 cubic feet. All right, I hope this practice helps clarify some stuff.